Hello and welcome. This is Natha. We are looking at the astrology for June of 2023. Before I begin, I want to invite you to my summer solstice workshop. It is called Embracing the Light, and it is using the astrology of the solstice to thrive. This is a really big deal, summer solstice, in the Northern Hemisphere, of course. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you are also invited. This work will apply to you as well. But we are working with the lightest day of the year, and we're going to be looking at how to recognize and activate your own light so that you can move forward with more intention and purpose and mission. And we are all on such a big mission right now, even if it's not totally obvious what it is. So you can sign up for that at electraastrology.com. And if you are on my newsletter list, you will be getting more information about that. And if you're not on my newsletter list, you can sign up at electraastrology.com. We begin June with a full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. This is the mental axis, Gemini and Sagittarius, where you are going to be asked to look at how your brain is functioning. What kind of thoughts are always spinning around in your head, and what do you do with them? And what happens when you zoom out and actually look at the bigger picture? The information changes between that Gemini detail and that Sagittarius wisdom. So we'll be working with that a lot over these next few weeks, so pay attention. On June 5th, Venus is going to enter Leo. Now, Venus is slowing down because Venus will go retrograde this year in the sign of Leo, not until late summer, early fall. But in the meantime, Venus will be taking its time going through the sign of Leo. But remember that Leo is about tapping into your sense of self, being able to see yourself clearly. And it is really hard to see ourselves clearly. And then we mix in this Venus energy of identifying your self-worth and seeing yourself as valuable. And that is easier said than done. Many of us will struggle in different parts of our lives with feeling as if we don't have enough, as if we are somehow lacking what other people have. And so this will be a season, really, because this is happening for several months, of playing around with where you might feel the lack. And that can be a lack of resources, lack of money, lack of abundance, lack of worthiness. How you might feel that, with the other side of the question being, are you seeing yourself clearly? On June 11th, Pluto is going to re-enter Capricorn. Pluto is in retrograde. It is traveling backward. And so this will be the first time that it re-enters the sign of Capricorn since it has entered Aquarius. So we moved into Aquarius and there was a whole Plutonian shift of energy, and now we're going back. So going back might feel a little disconcerting for some, but it's also going to give us a chance to recalibrate and to really look between that Capricorn and that Aquarius energy. Now, remember, these are both Saturn-ruled signs, so they share a lot in common in terms of looking at the structures and how the structures and the authority in any given region, area, outside of you, inside of you, et cetera, how that functions. But Capricorn is about their tradition of how it's always functioned, and Aquarius is about making it better. So breaking tradition. So we're in between these two worlds. And as Pluto goes back into Capricorn, you're going to get to look again at some of the tradition that you operate under when it comes to authority and question whether that's still working for you. On June 17th, we have a new moon in the sign of Gemini. So this brings us back to some of that energy I was talking about at the beginning with the energy of the mind. Now, Gemini, the new moon, that means the sun and the moon are both going to be in Gemini. So it will be more about the small details and the facts and the information. This is also a relational energy where you want to be curious about your relationships with people and how you're communicating with them. Sometimes we think that we are really good at communicating, and it turns out we're actually really bad. So you can always use Gemini season in general, but also a Gemini new moon to call yourself out a little bit. Really notice where you fail to make eye contact, where you fail to read body language, where you hope that people will read your body language and not listen to your words because you're too afraid to say what your truth is, this can show up in any manner of ways. But the key here is to get really curious about how you are communicating, how people are communicating with you, and whether it's working. On the 17th, we also have Saturn stationing to go retrograde. Saturn has been moving through the sign of Pisces, which is not the easiest energy for any of us because we have the planet, Saturn, of limitations and boundaries, structures, time, in the sign of Pisces, which is about how none of those things actually exist, right? Pisces is very nebulous and unpredictable and very unstructured. And so as Saturn turns retrograde, you'll get the chance to go back through some of the things that you have experienced when it comes to your relationship with time, with authority, with structures. So don't be afraid to slow down and tune in. This is not a time where you're crossing stuff off of your to-do list, but rather a time where you are sitting in contemplation, perhaps around what is really important on that proverbial to-do list. On June 21st, the sun enters Cancer. And this is when we have the solstice. So again, check out that free solstice workshop. I'll be promoting it more in my newsletter in case you lose track of it from this video. But the sun entering Cancer brings us into a whole new energy where we begin with the mental, heady energy of Gemini, and then we end out the month going deeper into our own emotions, into wanting to really make sure that our home, whether it's literal or figurative, that our home feels like a place of retreat, that we are honoring our emotions, that we are attuning to ourselves, that we are mothering ourselves in sweet and kind ways. I speak more about all of this in my newsletters and also on my Instagram and Facebook. Instagram at Electra_astrology and Facebook is at Natha Astrology. Have a wonderful month, and maybe I'll see you at a workshop or in my Hidden Wisdom astrology circle, or maybe in a private reading. You can find all of those at electraastrology.com.